Hey YouTube, welcome to Dragon's Dojo Gaming. I'm Andrew Sellers. Please like and subscribe for more content like the kind I'm about to bring now. And I'm about to show you all my updated Nirvana deck profile. At Monday, I was at Versus Games and Comics. We ended up having 16 people in total for the tournament, 4 rounds. Round 1, I went up against Mermaid Lyricals. I ended up 2-0ing them. Round 1, I won against game 1 of round 1. I basically beat them from superior writing Nirvana and getting a double crit while they were at 3 damage. And on game 2, I got some crits early game, and yeah. And I ended up overpowering him when I got to grade 4. Next, round 2, I fought against this one plant token deck based on Neo Nectar from Stoikeia. Let's see. Both our games in the match were pretty back and forth, but I ended up being the victor of that match, and I 2-0'd him. Game 3, I went up against a good friend of mine named Kevin Tai. We had a mirror match. Game 1, on his last turn, he ended up pulling the overtrigger, and he basically made it to where I had to use up all my perfect guards till I had no cards left in hand and was forced to take 1 attack, having to hope for a heal trigger, which I didn't get. Round 2, on games 2 and 3, I ended up crit sacking him to death, basically. And in round 4, I fought against the Aqua Force player we all know and love, Eddie Garcia, who I personally think is one of the best card fighters in the state of Florida. All 3 of our games in that whole match were super back and forth. Round 1, game 1, I almost beat him in game 1, but he had to no guard against my Vanguard while at 4 damage while I was swinging with my Vanguard, but I didn't get any critical triggers, and he ended up blocking my rear guard's attacks. And then next turn, after that, he defeated me. Round 2, I was pounding him, and then when I swung with my Vanguard while he was at 5 damage, he guarded enough to where we went 2 to pass. Triple drive, first check, I pulled a draw. I drew a card first, then gave +10 to my Vanguard. On my second check, I didn't get a trigger, and then third check, boom, I got a critical trigger, giving me the win. And then on game 3, he ended up beating me from persona riding and giving his rear guards lots and lots of power. Funny thing about game 2 is that before I beat him, he ended up drive checking the overtrigger, and I had perfect guards in my hand to stop his overpowered attacks. I may have lost to Eddie, but overall, he and I had a really fun and intense match, and we both congratulated each other. Anywho, on to the deck profile. Let's get to it, shall we? So, to start off with the grade 0 lineup, I run 4 Trickstar, No explanation needed as to why I run Trickstar at 4. For triggers, I run 4 heal. I like having 4 15k heals, but eventually I'm gonna consider taking it out for a copy of the restand heal trigger and a copy of that other heal trigger with an effect. 3 draw triggers. I think most people run this card at 4, but I kind of prefer it at 3 because you draw enough with the deck already from arcs and whatnot, and and I find crits to be a bit more pressuring in this deck than draws. 8 crit. And finally, 1 Dragveta. Self-explanatory as to why I run Dragveta in this deck. Next up for grade 1s, 3 of the best grade 1 in this deck in my opinion. 3 Amelia. She's so freaking good. Like, if your Vanguard's on grade 3 while you're on grade 3, while you have Amelia on your rear guard, you can counterblast 1, move her to the soul, then superior ride a Nirvana unit from your hand. Meaning while your Vanguard is divine Nirvana, is grade 3 Nirvana, you can superior ride into grade 4 Mahar Nirvana and get to where you can go off with Mahar Nirvana earlier. Next up for Blaze Monk, such a great card. What his skill says is, when placed on rearguard, counterblast 1, choose a unit with the overdress ability in your drop zone, add it to your hand, and if your Vanguard's grade 4, you countercharge. What I normally strategize doing with Blaze Monk is I discard Esper Idea from hand when I draw it, and then when I get to grade 4, I use Retsuji skill to add Esper Idea from the drop zone to my hand, and then overdress with it. Or call it if I don't have Trickstar. But Blaze Monk's just a really convenient card to have in the deck. 4 Twin Buckler Dragon. Obviously there as a perfect guard with an effect. Now for grade 2s. 2 regular Virina. I played him at 1 at one point, but I've started using him at 2 just in case I were to hit 1 or draw into 1, before getting to search for my other Virina with Nirvana's skill, with Ryu's skill. Next up for Virina Arcs. Gives you 2 cards with the cost of 1 counterblast. Basically the Pot of Greed of the deck. Hold on, what does Pot of Greed do? Next up, for grade 3s, 2 Virina Expecta. I run Expecta at 2 because, excuse me, that's my cat talking to me. Hey, kitty. But anyways, I run 2 Expecta. I'm thinking about taking 1 of it out because I usually just see them at 1. But I think 1 and 2 are good numbers in this deck. Expecta's a really good finisher card. Next up, for grade 4s, 4 copies of Mahar Nirvana. If you have an overdressed unit, your front row gets plus 10k. And his other skills are Counterblast 1, Soul Blast, or discard a card from your hand that either Soul Blast or discard a Nirvana unit. And then choose a grade 0, can be any, from your drop zone, and superior call it. And if your opponent's at less than 5 damage, they take 1. He's just such a good card. And finally, the strongest card in this deck, 3 copies of Virina Esperidea. If I end up deciding to take one of my Expectas out, I'm gonna toss in a 4th copy of Esperidea. He's such a good unit. Like, he's so freaking powerful. I ran Valiente at one point, but ever since Amelia came out, I just took Valiente out, because compared to Esperidea and Expecta, he's kind of meh. And as you know, Esperidea, if placed on Trickstar, has you send every unit with Trickstar and every Virina and Trickstar unit from your drop zone, stack them under Esperidea. And his other skill says, when your Vanguard attacks, Soul Blast, restand him. If it has no overdress under him, it gets no additional power, but if it does have units stacked under him, it gets plus 5k for each unit stacked under him, which makes him really good. And finally, the red deck. Dragonite, Sunrise Egg, Reno, Rayu, Divine Nirvana. Reno's there for getting out your Trick Stars. Rayu's there for helping search for regular Virina. And Nirvana is there to have as your grade 3 Nirvana for when you write it. And that is it for my updated Nirvana deck profile. Thank you all so much for watching and keeping up with my videos. Once again, please like and subscribe for more content, and I wish you all a good night. Ciao.